This will be a day long remembered. Now I am the master.
Welcome to another episode of Legends and Theories. In Arrow Season 6, we learn that Ricardo Diaz's plan against Oliver began almost a year before, during the reign of Prometheus, and there is one major plot hole that I've always seen there, and that is that Prometheus would have killed anyone that was going to take on Oliver, or even create a plan to do it, because he wanted to do it, and I find it extremely unlikely that Diaz would be able to put out a plan to be able to take on Oliver and potentially kill him, since when someone like Vigilante tried to attack Oliver, Prometheus would stop them and try to kill them, and also give them warnings. So that possibly could have happened, but I think it is way more likely that Prometheus worked with Diaz. There are two things that make me think of this. The first is that we were never told how Diaz learned Oliver's identity, and that was always something that bugged me. And the second is that Diaz did work with Alex Faust, and you may be wondering who that was. It was the guy who Oliver fought in the opening scene of Season 6, who was also a student of Prometheus, and was phase 2 of Prometheus' plan to get revenge on Oliver, even after he died, which shows how well Prometheus thought ahead, because he was able to figure out the most likely scenario of how the confrontation between him and Oliver would go, and he knew that he would, at the very minimum, not be making it out of Landu alive, and that Oliver would survive it, and he knew that Oliver would be losing people, although I don't think he predicted for most of them to survive. Prometheus still won, and was able to use his plan to continue to traumatize Oliver and go up against him. Considering how Prometheus acts, and how he's always 10 steps ahead of Oliver, I feel like this is very likely. And we know that it's almost impossible for Diaz to know that Oliver was the Arrow in Green Arrow before, because almost immediately after getting the information of Oliver supposedly being the Green Arrow, which was a doctored photo, arrived to the people in the news, which the rest of the group didn't know about. So it seems extremely unlikely that Diaz was able to create this image within the hours after he learned of Oliver's identity. Between that time and the time that it was revealed to the news. So I just feel like that just seems very unlikely, and it is very likely that Prometheus told him to go on the Alex Faust stuff, because you likely haven't heard of that and you're wondering where I got that from. It was from the book Arrow Fatal Legacies, which was written by one of the showrunners of the show. I can't remember which one, but I remember that he helped write it, as either him or one of the producers, but I know it was a higher up there, and from what I could see online, I think that's one of the only books that are considered canon within Arrow, so I'll just count it like that, and I think that it will explain it even more with the fact that Diaz was working with one of Prometheus's top lieutenants, and the person who he had personally put into a plan to mess with Oliver. And remember again that it was Diaz and the crew that he worked with that sprung Faust from the prison at SCPD, and that would be extremely really well look into the fact that he was working with them. Specifically, he was working with Diaz in a greater plan set up by Adrian Chase to further destroy Oliver's reputation, force his identity into the public, and put him in prison. I feel like this truly was Prometheus' plan and why he was so brilliant. I think that Prometheus may have even put Diaz in contact with the Ninth Circle, and was likely a member of the Longbow Hunters, or knew of them well from his time training with Talia al Ghul. And I just feel like this is all explained so much more in Arrow, It's something I've been thinking about the entire time since Arrow Season 6, and was almost relieved with joy when Prometheus showed up in that one episode, but it sadly turned out that he was a hallucination. But that's another interesting thing, that when Diaz poisoned Oliver, Oliver saw Prometheus when it was shown that Prometheus wasn't really his greatest fear when he was exposed to Scarecrow's fear gas. He did see Malcolm Merlin, but I don't know how well that goes in. I think they just wanted to put in the season 1 villains to the two characters in that one scene. But I think that the main reason that Prometheus did appear was because it was a connection that Oliver made in his mind that he didn't really realize himself, that Prometheus is the one behind all of this and is a criminal mastermind. I think that it was truly amazing to see how this went, and I think that this would be the best way to explain everything, and I do hope that this theory could be confirmed, because I feel like it would be a great way to explain some of the plot holes left in Arrow. Thank you for watching this episode of Legends and Theories, and may the Force be with you.